The basic idea of this activity is to talk about a movie, hence the title. In 1987, Hastings and Wheatley began development of the Focal Skills Program for university-level intensive ESL instruction. Learners focus on one skill until they reach a certain level. Unlike traditional programs, the four skills, reading, writing, listening, speaking, are not taught together. There's no vocabulary and grammar syllabus, no textbook, and no quizzes and tests, except for the placement test every 4 weeks to determine readiness for the next skill module. The first module is listening, and it lasts until learners reach an intermediate level. Most of the time in that module is spent on MovieTalk. The class watches full-length English movies. The teacher plays a part, then replays that part, perhaps narrating with the audio off, and frequently pausing for more narration, and asks questions that have short answers like yes-no questions to check comprehension. It was originally referred to as the Focal Skills Movie Technique, as well as the Narrative Paraphrase Technique. It was renamed MovieTalk in 2009. Note that Hastings has requested that it not be called MovieTalk when teachers do it to target vocabulary or grammar. The little research that has been done finds listening ability develops much faster than in traditional programs, as you probably expected. What you may not have expected is that progress in the skills not focused on is at least as good as in traditional programs. MovieTalk has been adapted for shorter class periods, used now by lots of K-12 teachers. The procedures are a bit different. Videos are usually 1 to 3 minutes long and usually have no dialogue. A small part gets played, then paused, and then there's teacher-class interaction. The teacher asks lots of questions, not just comprehension checks, to try to narrate the video together with the class. By stopping every second or every few seconds, it can take a whole class or longer to finish the video. An additional procedure to try out, probably after you have some experience with the basic procedure, is to have some students be the characters and sit them at the front of the class. Then, during the pauses, the teacher can narrate what they just saw and have the student actors act it out. The actors can also be asked questions, and they answer as the characters. MovieTalk is similar to some good practices for reading aloud picture books. One good strategy is to not just read, but also ask questions about the pictures. For example, asking, "Do you see the wolf? Where is he?" "Right, he's in front of the house. What's he doing?" "Do you think he's going to blow the house down?" There's an activity for developing literacy in a first language that is similar to MovieTalk. It's called a picture walk. The teacher discusses the pictures in the book with the students before the story gets read aloud. And MovieTalk resembles one way that pre-literate children read. They picture read. In fact, the same MovieTalk procedures can be used with picture books, and the original text doesn't need to be read. Videos with patterned plots, those with a repeating scene, are great to use with beginning learners because they help limit vocabulary and provide repetition. You want to be familiar with what happens in the video and anticipate which words are essential for narration. These can be taught during the MovieTalk or beforehand. You don't have to create a written version, but it can give a teacher some comfort to have a loose plan of things to say. And it also helps to give it some thought beforehand of how to adapt the narration to the level of the learners. If the text is later going to be read as a follow-up step, then by reading the text before the MovieTalk, the teacher is reminded of what needs to be said to ensure successful reading. The use of word walls and classroom rules was reviewed in the video on strategies for supporting comprehension. You'll be adding keywords to the board and reminding the students that they all need to respond to whole class questions. MovieTalk can be done from the first day of a Level 1 class, and I'll briefly demo what the teacher might do and say in that class. I'll demonstrate with a video of different dog owners being woken up in different ways by their dogs. So imagine I pause the video here. I point at the dog, then I point at the word K and say K, then point at S and say S. Students say dog or perro. I confirm the Spanish word was right and say, "Sí, es un perro." Then I point at the person and I ask, "KS?" After the class responds, I say, "Es un chico." I might write perro and chico on the board. Then I point at the words and ask, ¿Dónde está el chico? Students respond. Then I point at the word comma and say, en la cama. Then I ask, ¿El perro está en la cama? After the class responds, I point and ask, ¿Qué hace el chico? And I tell them that means, what does the boy do? Or what is the boy doing? The class responds and I say, El chico duerme. Then I ask, ¿El perro duerme? The class answers and I say, El perro no duerme. Then I point and ask, ¿Cómo está el chico? Here I could use the cognate contento and say, El chico está contento. Then I ask, ¿El perro está contento? The class responds and I say, No, el perro no está contento. ¿Qué quiere el perro? ¿Quiere que el chico duerma? The class responds and I press play. I pause on this scene. Now I point to the words and ask, ¿Dónde está el perro? The class responds with comma. So I ask, ¿Qué hace el chico? The class may be unsure if he's sleeping, so I say, El chico duerme. Then I ask, ¿Qué hace el perro? The class responds, and I say, Lame al chico. Another good strategy is to start a sentence and have the class fill in the blank. So I might say, El perro está en la, and the class says, comma. Then I say, El perro, and I cue them with the gesture. And the class says, Lame. Then I ask, ¿Cómo está el chico? ¿Está contento? Here you probably get a few who say sí, which gets some laughs. You might at this point choose to introduce the word piensa and ask what the boy is thinking. Movie talk is great for asking what characters do, want, feel, and think. I then go on and ask, ¿El chico quiere que el perro lo lama? After the class answers, I raise my hand and ask, ¿Qué quiere el perro? And I tell them I want someone to raise their hand if they can answer that in Spanish. Maybe a learner says, El perro no quiere el chico duerme, which I can understand, so the class and I briefly applaud the answer. If someone says, El chico se despierta, then I check that everyone knew that se despierta meant he wakes up, and add it to the board because it'll be a key word in future scenes. Then I give my own silly answer to the question. El perro quiere hacer pipí. Then I press play. Some videos are good for getting information about students. The dog video is great for that because people love talking about pets. During one of the pauses, I'd take a few minutes to ask questions like, who has a dog? And how many dogs do you have? I'd pick a person or two who has a lot of dogs and ask them if their dogs get on the bed, and if they let their dogs lick them. With videos with patterned plots, I can withhold some of the comprehension supporting techniques in later repetitions of a scene. That'll mean pointing less at words, gesturing less, and speaking a little faster. That's also what you do with learners who know more Spanish. And with learners familiar with more words, a wider range of vocabulary can be used. Once you finish the movie talk, you can play the video without stop and tell the learners to narrate in their own heads as it replays. Next, you can read the narration with the class. Another approach is to movie talk only a portion of the video in one class, then in the next class, read the narration for that part before finishing the movie talk. There are also various retell activities that you can do. And that's all.